Hey everybody, welcome to Hit Rewind, and look, I know we're in the 90s, but you know what, for a year we're going to go back even further in time, and I figured the best way to start it is the 60th anniversary, am I doing my math right? Yes, 60th anniversary of one of the biggest, greatest comedies of all time, and then I figured, no, 1963, why don't we just grab a few other movies from this time period and start working our way up, grab like 4 or 5 movies like we usually do, and then just work our way up from 1963 until we get to where we ended at 1996. What do you think, Jacob?
Sounds like a plan. Let's do it. I'm ready to get my groove on.
All right. So this episode, we're starting off with the 60th anniversary of It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World. Irma la Douce? Douce? I don't know how to fuck it. Is it Douce or Douche?
Irma la Douce.
Irma la Douce.
La Douce.
The Great Escape. And why have I forgotten what the other one is?
Nutty Professor.
Nutty Professor. Thank you. All right. So what are we starting off with?
Well, let's start off with The Great Escape. Let's get the hell out of here while we can, man.
So this is a first time watch for me. Actually, 3 of these are first time watches. I just went off the reputation that they seemed like they were, you and I kind of like bounced out, which ones should we do? At first, I'm going to say this, and I know it's sacrilege considering I think it even has a documentary about it called The Coolest Guy Movie Ever Made. I got real bored. The first 20 minutes is really good, and then there's this lull before they really start to plan the escape. That's fascinating, and then everything else from there is absolutely amazing. But I gotta tell you, I was like 25, 30 minutes in, and I was like, oh no, this is so long. Am I gonna make it? I did.
Right. It wasn't as fast-paced as, stuff like Lord of the Rings or Casino.
Yeah, well, movies have changed so much over the years, too. So the attention span now is rat-a-tat-tat, whereas then there was more patience.
Oh, yeah. But it is kind of funny because it's like people can binge watch like a whole season of a series. Then, yeah, they should be able to sit through a 3-hour movie.
I know. I'm fucking ridiculous. But
I know. It's like you better have a lot of snacks.
Yeah, so this is based on a true story, and some of the elements were changed to protect the people because they were alive at the time. But during my little research of this, and I showed you, is that in 1988 they did not technically a sequel. It's called The Great Escape 2, but it's more of like a reimagining of the original story, where it's a 2-parter, and the first part is now it goes back to the complete true story and the real names. And then there's a second part that shows you, years later, some of the survivors of that camp go out and their mission is they hunt down all the people that were responsible for getting the rest of the people in that camp slaughtered. In the movie, they really downplay how many people were killed. I think it was like 13 or something like that. In real life, it was 57.
Yeah. No, yeah, because we didn't really get to see all the ones that were executed, even though they did list in the movie how many were killed.
Yeah, and in the movie, what we see, maybe 15 escape at most, whereas in real life, it was something insane, like 426.
Or it was like 76.
No, I think it was really high. I have to look it up, but...
Oh, dang. Yeah, well, the movie, I know they listed it as 76. But, yeah, again, just like the interactions with each character, like James Garner in particular was one of my favorites.
Yeah, and this is him coming.
That's for sure.
He was coming off of Maverick, and this was his big breakout. And he's one of the few guys at this time that was able to launch a successful movie career. Coming off of a TV show, and I don't mean like some of the actors where, how in movies there's an A-list, B-list, C-list. And usually the guys that survived from TV were the C-listers. They were the ones that like, well, this, A and B turned it down, so let's give this lower budget movie to this guy. No, fucking James Garner was an A-lister. Maybe not top of the line like Steve McQueen, but he was really on the edge there.
Oh, no, definitely. In fact, yeah, no, this is a whole, like, star-studded, movie. You had Donald Pleasance, you had Richard Attenborough, of course, Steve McQueen, as you mentioned. You also had Charles Bronson, and, oh, God, James Coburn.
Oh, no, you're right. I am very sorry. I misread all of this. It says 76 escaped and 50 of them were captured and murdered.
Yeah, I know. And we only got to see like 3 of them actually escape.
Yeah.
James Coburn in France, because thankfully, to the French Resistance. And then, of course, Charles Bronson and I forget what his name was.
I don't actually know what the other actor was. His name. This is during a time.
Or even the character's name. There was just way too many to list.
There was a period where it was a little hard for me to track, and I think the reason why they cut down so many escapees is because it would just be a 5-hour movie, and it would just take forever to focus on all of them. And this is from John Sturges, who had just done The Magnificent Seven, and he brought over McQueen, Bronson, and Coburn. I fucking love this era where these guys are slowly growing. They're starting to become really recognizable, and then household names.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because, again, Steve McQueen's big break was Magnificent Seven, along with everybody else who'd been on that movie, besides Yul Brynner.
Well, I think Bronson took the longest to become a household name because he got huge in Europe in the 60s, and it wasn't until Death Wish. All of a sudden, people were like, who the fuck is this dude? And Coburn becomes a star in like 3 years with his James Bond comedy spoof, R. Man Flint or In Like Flint? I can't remember which one.
In Like Flint, that's it.
And the only thing that I was bummed about is it's always mentioned like, oh, this is one of the greatest stunts of all time, that motorcycle stunt. And I saw it and I was like, that's it? I don't understand. But maybe
go ahead.
But maybe it's just time and seeing so many more elaborate stunts years after that made me numb to it.
Probably, yeah. I will say, again, for its time, I was still pretty impressed by it. I mean, just the whole chase from Steve McQueen's vantage point, it was pretty intense. It's like, oh God, he's just right there. He's right at the border. Just cross the barbed wire, man. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah. What's interesting is they call him the king of cool, and I think the word cool has been manipulated so much over the decades that it means things it doesn't. And the reason why he was the king of cool is because he kept his cool. I mean, that's literally the definition. It's not like, hey, those shoes are really cool. You mean those bright neon? That's not cool. He was known for having a very level head and, in control whenever extremely dark situations would arise. So, I mean, he deserves it. I mean, there's hardly any other actor out there that can really have that vibe, I guess, is what McQueen had.
Right. Oh God, especially on Magnificent Seven, when everything he did would get under Yul Brynner's skin.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sweat-inducing movie because of the way that the scene that makes Bronson flip out, it would make me flip out too, is being like, I'm already claustrophobic as it is, and to have all that ground collapse on you and no one's there to save your ass and you got to climb your way out, oh my God, and it sent like chills up his spine. He couldn't function anymore.
Right. And also, again, going back to James Garner, his compassion for Donald Pleasance too.
Yeah.
Like, he looked out for him, even though everyone said he was going to be a burden because he was going blind. His vision was debilitating.
Yeah, I think this is the earliest I've ever seen Donald Pleasance, and even then, Donald Pleasance looks like an old thumb.
He did. He still did look old, like Angela Lansbury. They always just look old.
Weird.
I know, it's crazy.
And not really much else I can say about this. It's probably one of the better. I don't like prison movies, but these are a little bit different. Like, you know what I mean? Like the difference between prison movies where it's like, oh, this is where you're going to get raped and shanked, and and the dirty
don't
office.
Drop the soap.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff that's in Oz. I can't watch those kind of movies, but I can watch one of these kind of movies. And it's so weird that this led like 3 years later to them greenlighting Hogan's Heroes.
I know, that's pretty crazy. I mean, it did give off that frickin' vibe.
Yeah, it's like, oh. Well, I mean, if you look at this, there are some lighter moments in it. McQueen's got a sense of humor in it, and I can just see them saying, well, what if we just tweak this a little bit more in this direction, and then, we end up with Hogan's Heroes.
I'm pretty sure that's probably how it went down.
And you and I both noticed the baseball scene. Whenever Steve McQueen's in solitary, he's always bouncing his baseball around. And it dawned on me, and I was like, wait a minute. Suicide Squad, the James Gunn version. Is that an homage? What is the character's name that Michael Rooker plays? Do you remember?
Oh my God, why am I blanking? Whiplash? No, not Whiplash.
No, yeah. But it doesn't matter. But there's
it matters to me. I have to look this up now.
Yeah, but there's an opening scene in the new Suicide Squad while Michael Rooker is in prison. He's bouncing this ball around just like McQueen is, and I'm like, wait a minute, that has to be some sort of nod to it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, the Suicide Squad is pretty much DC's Dirty Dozen.
Yeah. Did you find it?
Of course, it being a prison movie, you know, again, James Gunn growing up watching a ton of movies. Savant, that was his character's name.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm pretty sure that's what the nod was too. Like Savant was probably trying to come up with an escape plan.
What's the next film we're going to be discussing?
The next one was a first watch for me. Irma Douce with Jack Lemmon and oh my God, why am I blanking on her name? How could I do this? Shirley MacLaine.
Thank you. For a minute there, my brain disappeared too. It's funny. And this is one that you chose. I'm curious, what led you? Was it Billy Wilder? Was it the cast? Or you just like flip a coin and just find something random?
I think it was just kind of find something random. And looking at the list, I'm like, oh, Jack Lemmon. I do like Jack Lemmon. So, figured what the hell.
Yeah, it's funny, as you and I discussed, that somehow all of these movies are super long. Well, no, Nutty Professor is short. And the reason is they were competing with TV so bad during this time, and that's when you started getting CinemaScope and Ultra Panavision and Technicolor, and movies were more epic. They're spending so much money, and they were really long. They're like, we got to give you more than what you could get on TV. And this is even before like TV movies existed. You know, it's like 6 years, I think, before the first TV movie. So they're really just competing with regular television. So it's interesting that they went this far in. And this, at the time, Billy Wilder was red hot, Jack Lemmon's red hot. So I can see them spending more money on this almost 2.5 hour stage comedy. And it almost works. And the only reason I say that is because they probably could have trimmed maybe 10, 15 minutes out of it. Some of it just kind of drags on. But goddamn, if you love screwball comedies about a bunch of fucking idiots who just make terrible, terrible decisions, but well-meaning terrible decisions, you know?
Right. Oh my God. Yeah, to think how the plot kind of revolves itself around a murder of someone who doesn't even freaking exist.
Well, yeah, and so it's funny is that this is set in France and everybody's supposed to be French. Nobody has an accent. Nobody.
Some people might have a French name here and there, but that's it.
Yeah, it's so funny and it's one of these movies where they have a character named Mustache. That's it, just Mustache. And it's all stage bound. You can tell it's just one single set. And it's a neighborhood, and it's all about Jack Lemmon falls in love. He's a cop and he gets disgraced by the most ridiculous means possible. But he falls in love with a lady of the night, I guess, if you want to call him. I don't like saying the word prostitute anymore. Sex worker. Thank you, sex worker. And he decides to assume another identity and borrow money to pay her so that she doesn't have to sleep with other people. But he's such a dumbass that not only does he first spend all the money having a party and celebration, he forgets he still owes that money back to his friend. And if it wasn't his friend, I'm guaranteeing you he would have gotten kneecapped.
Oh yes, definitely. And so he sneaks out at night, you know, working the late shift, like hauling all the meat, fish, like anything at the market, all these odd jobs. And then, you know, when she wants to spend the day, he's there in bed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but we don't... Did we mention the costume yet? I think the most ridiculous fucking Cockney accent eye patch and his silly, like, goatee or whatever. Right. That kind of... Oh.
He looks so much like the Penguin from the 1966 Batman series.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's having a fucking ball here, man. He is just absolutely destroying.
I know. That's what I loved about it. Again, yeah, growing up, I've always enjoyed Jack Lemmon, especially from Grumpy Old Men, and of course, The Odd Couple, and again, My Fellow Americans.
Yeah, he only does the really slapstick stage kind of stuff for a couple more movies. And then everything changes once he does The Odd Couple, and then his career is like completely repositioned into something else. And it was really fun. I mean, he was aging out, so I can't imagine he could keep doing these stunts. But God, it's a delight watching him. And then Shirley MacLaine bounces off him really well. He's got a really good cast around him. I don't know who the really tall dude is who's the other pimp, but he's fucking hilarious. He's such a weird sleaze.
Oh God, yeah, no, especially when he's like trying to show off those twins that he's now that he's no longer in charge of Shirley MacLaine or anybody else that Jack Lemmon's overseeing.
And the fight sequence. The fight sequence is so comical.
Oh, absolutely! Like, yeah, he's persistent, but as he's like trying to knock him out with like every object he can find, or even his own fists, it eventually wears him down.
It's almost like a Jackie Chan sequence.
Pretty much, yeah. Again, all these movies that we're going to list and talk about, they all have like a Looney Tune quality to it. I mean, aside from like the fighting, all the little mishaps, the slapstick, and even the cinematography. Like, again, these movies, especially this one in particular, bright, beautiful coloring all around. I do love looking at it. And this is based on a play, if I remember correctly.
It's a French play.
Opening.
So I was reading Ron Howard's biography, and he talks about The Music Man, and he said back then these super bright, colorful, widescreen movies were overlit to pick up the colors. And it was so roasting ass hot that everybody had to change constantly. They were pouring with sweat.
It is like being in a Broadway play.
Yeah, that's why for a decade there, the movies are so insanely bright. And then something happened, like, the whole independent movement of the late 60s, early 70s changed everything. So it didn't need to be so super bright.
Right, yeah, 'cause especially when they get filmed in an actual location.
Yeah, well, now with digital, you can just tweak the color in post.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, heck, look at the movie Babylon with all the lighting and everything and people being locked up in a freaking camera box and how sensitive it was to pick up sound.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it.
Oh.
So spoilers, at the end of this movie, or towards the end of this movie, there's a whole other act that is so insanely cartoonish. He has to get rid of the identity of the British man, and so he goes back to his normal self. And for some reason, through a weird turn of events, they think that he murdered the old man, even though he is the old man. He goes to jail for the most convoluted, stupid reasonings, and then escapes, and then he's on the run. And there is, I mean, this is a top, like, if you're gonna put a list together of top screwball comedy scenes, the one where he has to dress as a cop and wander around the room where they're looking for him is aces.
Yes. Oh God. Even when he's like looking under the bed at the cop, like right across from him, he's right there.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even realize it.
Yeah, it's really worth checking out.
Absolutely. And for me, this is a classic. This is definitely one of my favorite classic films now.
All right, what is next?
Next is Nutty Professor with Jerry Lewis. Now, my familiarity with this was, growing up the Eddie Murphy version.
Yeah, and
he himself grew up on Jerry Lewis.
And they are, I mean, if you boil it down, they are just a version of Jekyll and Hyde. But there's something so different about this one than that one, so that they can stand on their own. And I've been watching some Jerry Lewis movies for the show. And I think the problem with most of them and why he really he always sold tickets. They always did okay. But Nutty Professor is the big one for him. And that's because instead of his usual way of making a film, he did a full-fledged story. If you watch like Who's Minding the Store, The Family Jewels, stuff like that, it's like a Looney Tunes cartoon where it's just little vignettes. There really isn't much of a story. It's just, this is the plot, and it's just used to set up gags every 5 minutes. Nutty Professor has the gags, and they have scenes, but it's all driving, it's all coherent, and it's all driving to a final endpoint.
Exactly. But, man, some of those scenes, though, those gags, like, right after, during his class demonstration, he causes an explosion, and then the dean wants to see him in his office, and the way he just sinks in that chair, he's just looking at him back and forth constantly.
It is.
To say something.
God damn it, it's so funny.
Like, I know. I'm like, how many takes did they have to go through this?
Yeah, and Jerry directed this one. A lot of times he would hand off direction to, one of his regular guys. I can't remember the one that did. I have to look this up. But there's one that he did that used to direct Looney Tunes cartoons, and he moved on. Hold on. Give me a sec. Keep talking.
Okay. Yeah. Again, throughout this movie, it's basically, this professor, sick of being pushed around, didn't want to be, the butt of a joke, wanted to be taken seriously. Heck, even his own student, picked him up and shoved him in a closet. And as that happened, he just looks at the classroom and just goes, well, don't just do something to sit there. You can't even ask for help properly after something like that.
It's Frank Tashlin was the director of most of his movies around this era, and he's one of those ex-Looney Tunes guys that got moved over to live action.
That would explain it.
Yeah, so Jerry this is, I believe, the first one that he directed, and he had power, man. It's so goddamn strange that he had this much power when his movies really weren't making that much money. But I looked at it, and he would get 40% of the profits. And after 30 years, he would retain the rights to the film. Now, he doesn't own they said the film, but I think they mean the script, the sequel, or remake rights. That's how he was able to take a Paramount movie and sell it to Universal Studios for Eddie Murphy. But a lot of people don't know that there's a Nutty Professor 2 animated movie about his son. It was 15 years ago that the Weinsteins put out.
Huh. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's any good, but it's just interesting that he was able to finagle such a deal. And I think he does give an absolutely wonderful performance here. For the longest time, he was still doing his, little kid voice, the one that he did with Dean Martin for so long. And
yes,
this is a big change in his career. After this, you're barely going to see that. He gets more and more mature as the films go on. I think in '66 he does one with Tony Curtis called Boeing, where absolutely just a normal everyday human just doing a screwball comedy. And this was necessary, even though he does play a fucking weird dork. He also gets to play Buddy Love, and I think that's where the world finally saw, he can be something different.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As soon as he switches to Buddy Love and gets all cleaned up and cool, I'm like, damn.
That greasy hair, though, sweet fucking Jesus. That greasy hair that he has as Buddy Love, he would carry till the day he died.
Pretty much, yeah.
Looks like a goddamn oil slick. I mean, if I had to, just butter my bread, I'd just run it across his hair.
Yeah, no, that clearly wasn't Dapper Dan, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Dapper Dan doesn't leave that much oil behind.
Yeah, I believe this was Stella Stevens' really first breakout role. I think she was really good, and sadly, she didn't really have much of a career once the 70s came around, and she was just doing exploitation movies, but I like her a lot.
Yeah, no, she definitely gave off that angelic presence, and, assured him no matter what, even if he was Buddy Love or not, she still loved him. Although, I think she would prefer more of him as his regular self because he wasn't such a douche.
Now, she is in college, correct? He is a professor. For some reason, I got confused, and I wasn't sure if it was high school or college. Okay, thank God.
Yeah, because if it was high school.
I still want to punch Buddy Love in the face. What a fucking dildo.
Yeah, no, of course.
All right. Anything else you want to say before we go to our final film?
This is definitely one of the things that cements Jerry Lewis's legacy in comedy.
The only problem, he never hit these heights again. I mean, within a few years, when the second his Paramount contract was over with is when everything fell apart. He went over to Columbia and Fox, and all of those movies lost money, and they do. I've seen the last few, and they're not very good. And then, of course, his infamous, what's that one? The Day the Clown Cried, the one that no one has still seen. I think we got 2 more years before we can see it.
Huh.
Do you know about this movie?
It sounds awfully familiar.
He plays a clown in a concentration camp in World War II who's supposed to cheer kids up before they go into the ovens. Holy fucking shit. What an insanely bad idea. Not like Jacob the Liar. He actually tried to make it slapsticky or whatever, and when everybody saw it at the first screening, they're like, oh my god, this is a nightmare, and then he just hid it in a vault, so he bought his own film and he hid it away.
Damn.
Yeah, we're gonna see it in 2 years though. I'm very curious about it.
Yeah, holy shit.
All right, so our big grand finale is it's a mad. I think I got that mad world. Yeah.
Oh my god! Yeah, this is what definitely gave us This was definitely the inspiration for Rat Race in like 2000s.
Yeah. Well, and there's a couple others like that. In the late 70s, there's one called Scavenger Hunt. 1 year later, we have Midnight Madness with Michael J. Fox and the guy from American Werewolf in London. And then there's one called $1 Million Mystery. The only ones that are really good, though, are Scavenger Hunt, which we'll watch when we get to the 70s, and a Rat Race. Rat Race, they said, was their version of It's a Mad World.
Yeah, I mean, again, very similar plot. You know, just a random group of strangers just cruising across the California coast. Notice this car crash, and when they go to help the guy, it was just evidently a criminal who stashed away money. And now everybody comes in and wants to get a share of it. And all the hijinks that ensue along this, oh my god.
I think here's the problem is the peak of the movie comes about an hour in. It's a really long fucking movie. So the version you saw was 2.5 hours. I have the Criterion Blu-ray, which adds another half an hour. No, it's honestly, to tell you the truth, it's not necessary. It's just filler. What happened was when the movie was done, they did a roadshow version, and they really don't do that these days. But it's where they travel around with one print, and usually, like the director, somebody goes with them to, host it, and they charge more money. And so it was a lot of film. And they're like, well, we want a lot of screenings because this went way over budget. It was supposed to be $6 million. I think it cost $9 million. That sounds like nothing now, but it was a lot back then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So they cut it down or whatever for the the countrywide version. But yeah, most of it is just like. When you watch it, it was an old print, so you can tell the color shifts, and it'll just be like one line that's useless, or them just standing there for an extra 2 or 3 seconds. It really is just little bits and pieces, no full scenes.
Oh, good lord.
Yeah, so the version you saw is the best version, and what was it? I'm sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. An hour in, you get the best sequence, and that's the gas station sequence, which is just absolutely bananas.
It was like watching Fred Flintstone beat the crap out of Laurel and Hardy.
Here's the weird thing is, I love the movie. I think it's really entertaining. I don't think it's that funny. I really don't laugh. I've seen it about 4 or 5 times now, and I just don't find it that funny. But I'm just in awe of the spectacle and the crazy stunts.
Oh God, yes. And particularly near the ending when they're trying to catch the detective with all the money, and they're hanging off the fire escape on an old building that's going to be condemned, and then the firefighters have to come and rescue them.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's such a crazy sequence, and you can see this is before obviously really good special effects. They try the best they can with the ladder and the bodies flinging. They're clearly just toys, little dolls.
I still got a kick out of it.
Yeah. There's a really good sequence. Oh, let's go through the cast real quick. So Spencer Tracy is, I guess, essentially the star. He was the biggest name at the time, but he really is barely in the movie. They probably shot for 2, maybe 3 weeks. I would say probably Milton Berle is the real lead, I guess. Yeah, I mean, because his sequence in, which is a really funny sequence too, is when they're trapped in the shop and they're trying to escape, and everything they do goes horribly wrong, and they keep getting stuck in there. We have Sid Caesar, and he has a whole sequence. Wait, do I have these wrong? I do have them wrong. Shit, I'm sorry. Sid Caesar is in the building. Milton Berle is the one with the young, beautiful wife and the mother-in-law. And
yes.
Look, there's 2 things in this movie that's going to test your patience. Ethel Merman and her constant yelling. And the second is there's a sequence with Mickey Rooney and Buddy Hackett where they're in a plane, and it kind of goes on just a little too long.
Yeah. Well, oh God, especially with Jim Backus, being the pilot, constantly getting drunk and then getting himself knocked out.
Yeah. Dick Shawn isn't in much of this, but he's the hippie son of Ethel Merman, and I laugh my goddamn ass off with every single thing that comes out of his mouth. There's a sequence in this where they keep calling him to help. Like, you go get the money. You're already there. And all he does is dance like a lunatic while his girlfriend is like a robot, and she doesn't say anything. She doesn't make any facial expressions, and they dance the whole fucking movie until like the very end. I can't stop laughing at it.
Yeah, no, seriously. That part was hilarious too. I mean, they were getting high, so hey, that explains why she was so robotic. She was probably really stoned. But she could still dance. I mean, considering the standards and style of dancing from that decade.
Yeah. Phil Silvers is in this as a little weasel who constantly, it starts off because he screws over Jonathan Winters. Now, let me ask you this. I grew up with all these old TV shows on my low-budget, high channel numbers, and Nick at Night. Do you know who most of these people are?
Yeah. Milton Berle, as you mentioned, Buddy Hackett, and, Mickey Rooney I'd seen from, a lot of the movies I'd watched as a kid, especially when he was, he would appear in a Disney movie.
Was it Black Stallion?
Not just Black Stallion, but also, something about the Phantom of the.
Huh?
It was from the 90s. It was regarding the Phantom, almost like a play on Phantom of the Opera.
Okay, I think a lot of people know him from the Black Stallion or The Night They Said Christmas. I think is one of them, which was a really popular TV movie. But a lot of these guys, they were TV guys. That's how they got them so cheap, except for Spencer Tracy. Phil Silvers, of course, was the original Sergeant Bilko. Jonathan Winters is a weird guy that they never really found a place for. I think most of our generation probably knows him from Mork and Mindy, I guess.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you may not know him because in the last season of Mork and Mindy, they decide they're going to have a son. And when their son is born, he's old and he ages backwards. And it's Jonathan Winters playing a baby.
Well, as far as I'm trying to remember. Who was the one truck driver trying to ship out all? Who was the one who was driving the truck who had to deliver stuff?
That's Jonathan Winters, I believe.
Yeah, Jonathan Winters. Yes, I remember him from the first Flintstones movie. He was the one who handed John Goodman the drink.
Oh, okay.
When they were on the bridge and Fred was in hiding.
We got Jim Backus, Andy Devine, which most people don't know. I know him from an old radio show. He's got one of those real high voices, that kind of thing. Peter Falk, everybody knows him, Columbo.
Yes, one of the cab drivers.
Norman Fell, who is the neighbor on Three's Company. We have the Three Stooges. They're only in it for a second or two. Jimmy Durante, he's the guy who dies at the end. Carl Reiner, Don Knotts, Buster Keaton, Marvin Kaplan. I mean, this is just a murderer's row of that guy.
Yes. You're pretty much Leo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, just snapping at every person you recognize.
And in just literally a couple seconds, cameos. We have Jack Benny, Jerry Lewis. I think Bob Hope is in this. I'm trying to remember. I don't know.
Yeah, there were so many recognizable faces. I'm holy shit.
A lot of them to us are just, that guy, that kind of thing, whatever. But it's so strange that Stanley Kramer even directed this. The guy's not known for comedy. He always did these political, social kind of movies, and for some reason said, yeah, I know what I'm known for. Fuck it. And just destroys. I think maybe that's the reason why it wasn't funny, because he doesn't know comedy. He just knows spectacle.
Right. Oh, man, but again, you have to give it to the actors for, I think, trying to bring in as much of the comedic performances as much as possible. And yeah, the mother-in-law, oh, God, yes. You just wanted to shut her up.
Oh, my God. Duct tape! Duct tape!
Oh, yeah, and then the ending, when they're all, stitched up and in bandages and, upset about, not being able to get all the money. I love how, again, the detective's just, looking back is this is not something I'm going to be able to laugh at. You guys might, but no, this is not going to have any positive effect on me. And then, of course, Buddy Hackett as he finishes his banana, throws it on the ground right for the mother-in-law to come in and slip on it. It's like, yes, finally.
Yeah, it's not a quick comedy. It is truly epic in every sense. And I'm still impressed that they had the balls to go through with it. And it was a smash. It played for years. You know, this is before video. And if it was a huge hit, it wouldn't go straight to TV. I believe in some countries it ran until the mid-70s on the big screen. That's a long fucking time. Yeah.
Damn! Oh, good God. It definitely had to have made its money back.
Yeah, well, it cost $9. Like I said, it went over budget, but it made $60 million, which is, God, what? I don't even know what that is in today's money. That's American dollars.
That's like, what, 6.5 times its budget?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was another hit that big until, I think Butch and Sundance made like $75 million, and, you know, that's 9 or 6 years later, so, yeah, wow.
Good Lord, Gene Keys.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the first movie to ever hit 100 million. I want to say it's Jaws, but I feel like Towering Inferno the year before actually hit 100 million. Or I know Airport made a bunch of money too.
Oh yeah, Airport. Then of course that's what gave rise to the movie Airplane.
Yeah,
or gave influence to it.
All right, so that is the end of this episode. We'll be back in a couple weeks for 1964, and I think by then it's probably time for hiatus.
Oh yes. Break time from that, but not from actual work.
All right, everybody. Have a good one. And Jacob, send us out.
All right, everybody. Namaste and good luck. Be excellent to each other.
And have a martini, pally.